is the Finance Committee meeting. It's April 7th, and it is now 6:05. And tonight we have Pam Haig, we have Harry Vondolowski, myself, Amy Fiden, Paul McCretsky, and Peter Matusko. First thing on our agenda is approving the minutes. If I could have a motion to approve the minutes from 3:19, 3:24, and 3:25.
So moved.
Second.
So first from Paul, second by Pam. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. And so, all right, so I think we'll just jump into the budget since we listened to everybody and what all the department heads were thinking. One of the big things, I just passed around some of my notes and what I was thinking, and then everybody wants to chime in on what you're thinking. What I was thinking is, for me, is I think we need to have, if we're gonna do an override, it needs to be an override that is palatable to the taxpayers. That's something that the taxpayers would most likely pass, because if we go too high, I think that it will get the same results. So my goal was 500,000. And with that goal, my goal was to have 2 firefighters added to the budget and to replace the 640 from the school budget that we took. So, also I wanted to limit the cuts as much as possible because I didn't want to see 20-year employees leave. So if I could, yes. So anyways, those were my focus and that was my goals. I know there's a lot up in the air because we don't know exactly what the town administrator's salary is. We also don't know exactly what we're doing for the building inspector.
We don't have those salaries yet?
I don't.
I'm sorry, which two? I'm sorry.
Town administrator and.
We don't have the town administrator. They're going to go into negotiations again tomorrow night with him. And for the building inspector, we have done a part-time appointment for Dave Waskevich, who is a longtime alternate of the town. He is going to be our building commissioner for 10 hours a week.
Okay.
We're gathering facts, looking at what's the right choice for the town, but we have to have a commissioner, and Dave very kindly volunteered to step in, and like I said, he's already an alternate, and he's the assistant building commissioner in Amherst.
Okay.
And we figured the commute was just about right for him. So,
So 10 hours a week, what does that equal for salary?
we're paying him $55 an hour, which is what his rate is in Amherst.
Okay.
And is the going rate for building inspectors in the area and on par with what the former
Okay.
building inspector was making.
Okay.
And so the building inspector was a full-time 40-hour a week position at 106,000, right? 106, 107, something like that. And so right now we're doing 10 hours, so it's considerably less. There will be a savings there. But Vern is the local building inspector, and he's had to pick up some hours during this transition. So we'll still see a savings, but we're not certain how much it's going to be because of the hours that Vern has been picking up.
And a support person.
But that was for 26, so.
That's for
going into
26 right now. Going into
27.
27, we're going to have firmer numbers to you as we get closer to town meeting, but we don't know where we are quite yet. Our building commissioner passed away 2 weeks ago. We are making sure that we have somebody in place to protect the town and provide public safety, because that's what the building inspector's office is a public safety position. And so we're making sure that that is covered and we're providing the necessary safety for the town. And then we're going to have discussions with the select board and see what we need to do and provide going forward.
Okay,
So that will be forthcoming, but we wanted to make sure we were protected first.
yeah. I just want to see what we have in there for
I think it's 62.
62.
Yep, we cut it to a
62.
half-time position,
Okay.
because that was sort of how it was working out right now.
So
And-
is that 62, sorry, is
Yeah.
that 62 halftime?
Yes, that's half-time.
Part-time, okay.
And we did that because their receipts were coming in so much lower, and the previous building commissioner had sort of said there wasn't the same amount of business happening. So that seemed like the right choice to do, but we were leaving it up to them, sort of, if that would be the local inspector position or the building commissioner position. But because we weren't certain what they wanted to do, we took it from the building commissioner position.
Okay.
Okay? I wish I could give you more, but
No, that was,
yeah.
I mean, at least you gave us some
Yeah.
answers. That's
This
good
is
to have that.
2 weeks out. We're just still trying to make sure we're covered.
Okay. So, I'll just quickly go through a few of my things that I was thinking, but, I know that there's a lot of adjustments here, but this was just where I was going with it. The one thing that I'll jump to is the health insurance. I did the 185 in there. I pulled out 185 because I think if I did $2 million when we're on the health insurance, and I did that times 16%, I come up with $320,000. So then I took the 320,000, or 2,320,000, and I minused it from what was in there, and I came up with 185.
Yeah, that was what I had come up with around there as well, so I think it's overstated this year.
I'm
For
just
next year, sorry.
wanted to have that looked at again, but if that's what I was thinking. Is it am I completely off, or is there 2 million is what we were talking about the other day?
You're looking at health insurance,
I'm
or you're
looking
looking
at-
at the entire benefits?
health insurance.
Page 45, I'm looking at the health insurance. And when we talked about it the other day, we talked about how, and this is halfway through and it's 1 million. Then we talked about some people that were leaving, and so we said it was $2 million. So when I did $2 million, and I said, okay, well, we wanna give it a cushion. Even though it's about 12%, we wanna still use the 16%. As the number.
Yes.
So I did the 16%, came up with 320.
So it'd be 2.3 for next year. 2,320,000
Yeah.
for next year.
And you're doing it based off of the year-to-date?
Okay, so I took,
When we,
I took the town administrators, the FY 27 town administrators suggestion,
Right.
and so that was 5,400, I'm sorry, 5,000, I can't even talk.
You're
Sorry,
so
I'm
stuffed
old.
up, it's kind of, yeah.
It's the 2.5 million.
Sure, 2.5 million.
Thank you. And then I subtracted the 2.3.
Because you did the math for the 2.3. Tell me again, please, how you got there?
So I take the,
43, 150 maybe.
I'm sorry,
if I
please.
take the FY 27 town administrators number in
Mhm.
here, and it's $2,504,551,
Correct.
and I minus $2,320,000.
Where did that number come from again?
I took $2 million and I times it by 16%.
2 million isn't enough.
I'm trying to figure out where you came up with the 2 million. You just doubled the year-to-date, is
Well, I
what you
doubled
did.
year to date, but when we were talking about it too, in that meeting, that's what I was
we
hearing.
had said it was said that 2 million would be sufficient to get us through this year.
Didn't say sufficient. The halfway point was $1.10 billion, so I think you're off by at least 20,000. I would put the 20 back in. I don't think we can afford to be under. So that's not a big difference, Amy. I'm just trying to
But-
don't cut it too close.
Right, so
Yeah.
we are also doing the 16% that you had wanted
Yeah.
originally instead of the 13, so you've got that 3% buffer as well.
Yep. Well, I'm just trying to,
Yeah,
that's,
right.
that's one number.
I just wanted to understand how you
That's
got
how I
there
got
so I
there?
can look at it and see. Okay.
But it looks like you're adding personnel in, so. I mean,
Yep.
You're adding personnel in.
Yep.
We cut them out, you're adding them in.
Yep.
Okay, so you're gonna have to
But
add in
this,
for those.
but this is from last year. I mean, they were in last year.
No,
some
they're
of
not,
these.
they're not in this year. They're not.
The firefighters are not.
They're not in there, no.
Oh, no,
We'll
no,
get
no,
to
no, the
them.
firefighters weren't, but the, some of the others,
We didn't take the intent was not to take people's benefits when we
but
cut
I
them.
mean, didn't we lose some people since,
Well, hence the 1,000,010 as opposed to.
So,
4%.
Yeah.
okay.
It's like
Yeah,
$80,000.
okay.
That-
so
oh,
that
that's
was
what you're
just
doing.
one number. We can move that around.
Yep.
It's 80,000.
All right.
We will have our, we're not quite ready with our year-to-dates, but we should have those.
Okay.
through the 3/4,
Okay.
through March.
The principal and interest,
I wonder if she has them already.
That's what that is.
huh?
What?
Principal and
It's
interest?
principal and
She couldn't
interest.
figure out what part
Oh, I
it
thought
was.
you didn't know what it was.
Oh, principal and interest, I was hoping that we could try to do a little bit more, since we're not using our free cash now for the, capital as much. I mean, we're gonna be using free cash towards capital more, and because we have it, we're not using it to the budget. So, my thinking is before, what we did in the past, we kept adding extra money into principal and interest budget, and that was how we were getting our capital items. Well, now I'm hoping that we can maybe back that off. We took out 55, but I was hoping we could
That's
take out
one of
a
them.
little bit more.
And then, now you've taken out more than we started with, though. It was only you did 50,000 twice.
I thought we did 100,000 twice
No,
in the past.
I don't think so. Well, if that's what your research
That's what
has
I
found.
thought, we did 100,000 twice in the past, but we should double check that, but anyway, so if, that's why I
Ah,
thought that.
okay, all right. So, these are questions we certainly have the answers to if I know what your concerns were.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
we have
okay,
time,
we'll check.
it's not, we're not like we're voting, this is just
Yeah,
up for
okay.
discussion. So it's just discussion, it's
Okay.
not that we have to have exact answers, it's stuff to
Mhm.
look at. So, I moved the, COA director, put something in there, for that too, because, she gave us the new sheet. And so I took the sheet that she gave us on what hers was and moved it to, from what the town administrator's budget was. And then the other thing was, in the COA budget, they always had before, and that's why it was confusing to some that hadn't been here for a while. In there was always $10,000 that we kept paying for out of a grant. We kept wanting to move it in,
We
My
moved
thing-
half of it. It had been 20, and we've gotten half of it moved
Yeah.
in over the last couple
My
of years.
feeling is, maybe we can move it back into the grant for another year, because, you know, if we could move some of this money to pay for something else, it might be.
I'm pretty sure on her sheet, she wasn't using, that it wasn't one of the jobs that she was changing. Is that the one that
We
you
were
have there?
hoping-
And she was not using the grant money.
Yeah, no, she was not using the grant money.
No.
Right.
And there's another place where cuts were made that she was hoping to use the grant money for, which was for additional cleaning services for this building.
Well,
So,
we think we solved that problem too,
Oh,
oh,
right?
well, no.
maybe we should just sit quietly, let
Okay,
y'all run
you-
through,
yeah,
and then
that's-
you'll tell us what
that's
you need
fine.
from us.
You just do it all.
That might be easier.
Okay, so, that would be great, and then also if we could do, at if we moved 10 out of the COA, if we moved 10 out, another 10 out of the library through either grants or trustees, because I know in the past, the trustees had put people on, as employees, they hired people, and then we moved them from the trustees into the budget after they were hired from the trust. So I thought maybe we could do it the other way, just a thought. Also, the chief's budget was overstated, and then also what was in the town administrator's budget. So those are just some of those items.
Okay.
The assistant town collector, was one that I was looking to think we should add back in. The town clerk, an admin fire, and the minutes person for the town,
Can I ask why you skipped the assistant town treasurer?
because the town treasurer is is keeping all the same hours. She's still not gonna be losing any hours.
But my office is still down a half person, and these offices are up. And she's not going down. She does not want to go to building inspector. She won't do that. So I don't think that, this is not a personnel, you can't tell people where to work.
No,
We're talking about positions here. So I think that whatever you do, I think you should treat those two the same.
So just to bear in mind, when we're looking at it, we needed to put a half person back in the building inspector's office because the revenues are down. So we feel that by putting a person in that department as half-time, we can help get the revenues back up to where they should be to help get rid of some of these problems that we're having because the revenues went down so very much with the new commissioner. So a thought, and again, nobody's voted on anything, this was a thought that since the person who is the assistant treasurer had experience in building, that she would be a natural fit to go down there.
It makes good sense.
it makes good sense, but perhaps that's not how it's gonna happen. It was just a thought. So that position isn't necessarily her position, is to the point that Linda's trying to make. So her position, the assistant treasurer's position, has also been cut in half. So are you trying to save the assistant collector because of who the person is, or because you believe the work is there for that position?
Well,
Because this is about the work, right, between the two offices?
Well, that and personnel cuts. If we do personnel and we're cutting people and losing people, so one of my goals is to try not to cut the people.
So you're looking at the people in the
And both.
position, both, okay.
Both.
So,
Yep. So
okay,
if we needed to move that person, okay, share that person, the assistant collector, with another department, okay, let's look at that. I'm trying to save people.
people,
Two,
not the
it's not just
position.
the
Okay,
position.
Okay,
so when,
all
got
right.
it, tracking,
Yep, that's,
got it?
that's fine, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't just looking at the collector, but I was looking at,
Right, so,
Yep,
okay,
so-
so what she's saying is if you're looking at making positions whole, she would like it if you would make it her assistant treasurer position
Yeah.
whole again, not counting that it would go down to the building inspector. The building inspector half-time position, whatever we shake out on, is either gonna be a new half person or it would come from some other department.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
we have to be aware of workloads and not just
Yeah,
keeping
no, it
people.
wasn't just that, and we could, you could share, and when I said that, it wasn't a huge thing with some of the others with the, like the, I didn't adjust anything with the town, assessor,
The
because that just went down.
6 hours a week?
Yeah, which is, assistant, it went down a little bit, but was $1,000, so.
Mhm.
And then the town clerk also mentioned that they are going back by 2 hours for the assistant. They said that they were at so many hours and they are bringing that back by 2 hours.
Mhm.
From
But you're
20 hours to 18.
But you're still
hours.
adding 10,000 in?
Yeah, because it came out more than 2 hours.
Okay.
Linda, how much would it cost to restore the assistant treasurer's position back to where it is now?
Oh, we did,
29,117.
29,869, what do you, oh, yeah,
Yep.
no, 29,869. Which is what she is costing now,
Yep.
with the half, for the half.
Thank you, that's exactly half. too.
Right,
Yep.
which is,
Yep.
I think what you did with the
That's
collector
what I
too.
found in the
Yeah,
building.
that's how the collector one was done too.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So so my thinking is if we make some of these adjustments, then we could add back in with no, like, just as what we have here for money, with no override. With some of these adjustments, we could add 1 firefighter, and we could put 250,000 back to the schools
Okay.
with no override. If we can do a $500,000 override, we can have 2 firefighters and move 640,000 back to the school. And then what was left in if we did a 500,000 override, was 40 to move back to the finance reserves, which I think 25,000 is not enough for finance reserves to make it through the whole year.
$50,000, $50,000 to $60,000. Having cut the health insurance down to what you think is as far as you want to cut it, and then with, again, adding personnel, and they're not, you haven't added those back in on the health insurance.
Well, is that
So-
included in the 140 though?
And
Benefits?
I wanna know
Yeah,
if,
that's
did you
what-
do
that's what we
benefits?
wanna
That's
know. Yeah,
40%.
we need
Did
to
you add
have-
that in?
No, I mean, that I was thinking we had some people leave since the last one.
But we can't, you gotta, if you're gonna add 2 people, you gotta assume they're gonna take benefits, so
Right,
40%.
but I thought we might have lost some because we had a lot of others leave on their own.
I think
We're already
we've
counting
played
for them,
that
though.
strategy as far as we
Okay.
can, I think. I
Yes.
think we've really
So we need
pushed
to
our
relook at
limits
the
on that,
numbers
yeah.
to make sure.
I
Yeah.
thought Spanky said 104 was the salary for a firefighter. so-
No, 100 and,
I'm sorry, for 2, it was 104.
And that includes stipends, turnout gear, all of their testing and their air packs. So when you're hiring people back, you gotta make sure we're capturing the whole thing, not just the salary, so we gotta make sure you're getting, and he maybe has that factored in.
He does. He does have it, because when he applies
Okay.
for grants, he has to do that on top of every individual salary, he has to do their other costs, so.
And then 40% for benefits.
So in there, he has a lot in there factored, so.
Okay, perfect.
There was other things that we would have to look at, because when we looked at his sheet, and I was confused at first, because I didn't understand if we add people, how the overtime goes up. But
Right.
what, I figured it out, what they were trying to do is, they were taking it as, instead of a one-person minimum, which they have now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought what the police chief did on the screen was excellent. So the police chief listed his, he has a two-person minimum. He staffs for 3 people per shift. So he staffs 3 people per shift, so then when someone calls out, or they're on vacation,
Mhm.
he's down to the 2, gets a
Correct.
2-person minimum. Fire is at 1 person, so when someone calls out, they have to fill.
Mm-hmm.
I think the numbers that he gave us was going, and he wanted 2 people per shift, he wanted a 2-person minimum.
Correct.
I don't think we're ready for that, because that means we'd have to have 3 people per shift, just like the police, and we can't do that.
Right.
So I think the minimum has to be a 1 person, with the wishes that we can have 2 people on. So, but
Mhm.
when someone calls out, we're down
To the 1.
to the 1.
Right, because the backfilling those empty positions is what kills with the overtime.
With
I
the
mean,
overtime.
it absolutely kills.
Yeah, because his overtime went up from getting
Right.
more police,
Right.
more firefighters, and then his overtime like doubled.
Yeah,
But that's because I think they were changing the minimum.
Yeah,
right,
we were Using
probably,
a different model, yeah.
probably.
different model.
Yeah,
Change the
Did he,
model.
did he
That-
say that to y'all, or he didn't?
No, well, that's how he said, he was saying how he calculated it,
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
so.
Okay.
I mean, these all have to go through you have to look at all these is just my first pass through, my thoughts.
Sure.
But my goal was to try to keep the override ask the lowest possible, with the least amount of cuts. And so, that's why I'm giving as much back to the school I can, so the least amount of cuts, and that's why I'm focusing on giving, try to keep, our fire department is really having a tough time with this, so.
Okay.
That was my focus. Someone else wanna take it
Yeah,
from
so
here?
one of the other things that we had talked about was the maintenance, DPW maintenance
Uh-huh.
person. You've got $52,000 down, and I know I've asked before, but I'm not understanding this $52,000. You were telling me that's not, if we were to hire a DPW, a maintenance person, that would be their salary.
No, salaries are above the line, Pam. The 52,000, we were thinking that it would not be a salaried person. That would be, you were there, you were nodding your head.
I wanna know
We
what
were
page we're on first.
Contracting.
39.
Oh, thank you.
Oh. We would be contracting out the maintenance needs rather than having a maintenance person on staff going around.
But we
It's
think
another
we
option.
need a maintenance person. And you
So-
had that
Okay.
$52,000 was up in the salaries in last year's book.
That's because we
Correct.
had somebody, and that was one of the layoffs.
Right,
Yeah.
but we think that needs to come back.
So you wanna add a
And now you're
position.
adding
I
on to
wanna
your
just
health
move that
insurance again.
$52,000.
So then
up.
add 40% to that for benefits, and know that we probably are not gonna get somebody to manage all of these buildings for 52K. So we'll need to add probably another $10,000 to $15,000 on top of it. So 40%
Well, I
for
think that
benefits and
you're
that.
looking for just you don't need to have them, you need a handyman. It's not,
I know, but, so here's the thing that we're running into as problems. Hiring people at what we want to pay is not working out so great for the town of Hadley. And actually, it's not the town of Hadley, it's all the towns. We're not paying enough. And now, it used to be the insurance and the benefits were so great, it was, everybody wanted to be municipal. But now, it's not turning out that way anymore. The salaries aren't keeping up. So we can put it out there and see if we can get a handyman who will work for $52,000 a year, but we probably will not get it for 52, so we will have to come and say, we're gonna need more money for this position. It's gonna become a union position, so then we're gonna have to have an impact bargain, and they're gonna go in a step, and we're gonna have to pay that. Then you're gonna add the 40% for their benefits. And so Absolutely. Would I love to have an on-call person so when the plumbing goes bad at town hall, we don't have to call somebody in? Would love it. But the reality is right now, Gary can take care of one step of it, but as soon as we need something more, we're already calling the plumber. So when we had our little flood problem at town hall, Gary tried to resolve it, he couldn't resolve it. We've had the plumber back, I think, 3 times since then. So we're already making those calls. In all likelihood, our building maintenance person is not gonna be a certified plumber, so we're still calling them. We were just trying to find efficiencies. If we have the money and we could have an on-call, have a person working for us who could come and fix those problems and change the light bulbs, please, I would really like it. But we were trying to be fiscally responsible, and this was the one way that we were looking at trying to do it.
The message we were getting is we had too many employees. And so the idea was to
Outsourcing.
explore our outsourcing
Outsourcing.
options and
We-
do
we agree,
contracts,
but-
which is what we did with HR.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done, and then, progressing through, and
I
so
just-
it's very hard to keep the balance between,
It's
it's
just- it-
interesting to see you all going through the struggle that we went through when we were told to change the way we did things. So, now you know.
I agree. I mean, I think that the building maintenance is a very important spot
Agreed.
to have someone on hand to do that kind of stuff. Now, a cleaner, that's someone that is a cleaning service that does the trash and that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that is a great outsource
It
thing.
is, yeah, and that will
But-
continue.
But as far as someone on staff to do some of the things that we wouldn't have to hire out, that I think is an important, I think he did a lot for this town.
Especially the senior center.
Are you
He
talking-
did the shoveling of the
Gary.
snow and everything like that.
So-
It's
And
just-
I don't necessarily know it has to be as high as what Gary did, as much as what Gary
Right.
did,
Oh, no,
but
can't be.
a person.
So then we get into, we're in our DPW. Now, do you want a DPW driver who is plowing the streets? Or do you want to make sure that you're not contracting out and getting light bulbs and plumbing done? So it becomes a balance act. DPW, we tried to make cuts to all departments so nobody was bearing the lion's share of this. So we were looking at this. Scott needs plow drivers. Scott needs highway people. Scott needs his sewer and his water people. And so we were trying to look at it, and we thought, working with the DPW director, that having somebody out there plowing the streets was the bigger lift that was going to benefit the town more. So the plowing of the sidewalks and everything, maybe it means we're going to have more delays. And I
So
know
why
school
couldn't-
parents
why
don't want to
couldn't
hear
that
that,
person
but
plow?
it's going to, I'm sorry?
What, I
I don't believe Gary plows very often. I know he does plow, but I don't think he plows all the time. But it's a balancing act of what you're doing. So having somebody shoveling when they could be out plowing the streets, shoveling and clearing the parking lots and the sidewalks is always going to have to come last. The roads have to come first. So it might be that we just have to close the COA when there's snowing because we can't stay on top of it, or we have to open it late. So these are the things that we were doing and making these judgment calls and trying to make these decisions, working with department heads as we were going through this. And I kind of agreed with the having a plow driver clearing the roadways was the better sort of go about it. But again, I'm happy to have a building maintenance person back on the budget. It's just I want to be mindful that we're making sure that we're covering all of the expenses that it would be for it.
Yeah, it's more expensive to be contracting out more snow plowing than it is to be contracting out handyman services.
Right, but I mean, if it's snowing, he can plow. If it's not snowing, he can do his
Right.
handyman. It's like, it's not like it's only, 4 months a year?
How many storms
10
do you
days,
have?
10 days
Well,
a
this year we had a lot.
You know, about how many
Right.
hours if you add it all up? total
Right. I'm
versus-
just telling you this is sort of how we did it, and we really were, I mean, maybe we missed the message from y'all. We thought that it was too many employees and that we needed to look at more outsourcing, so this is what we did.
Well, I do think it's good. I mean, we're just questioning.
Right.
We just think that the handyman's important, that's all.
No, I'm happy to have it go back
Building
and
a
forth.
person is important.
I want y'all to advocate the heck out of it, because I would love to have a building maintenance person again. Like, I mean, that's what y'all are
Yeah,
here. Y'all
sure.
are to advocate, advise, and please.
I mean, we
get-
heard it from all of the departments that they need a maintenance person. Every one of them, that was one of the biggest concerns, was the stupid little things that they have to do that should be done by somebody else.
Right. I mean, please,
Do
get us
we
one.
have the receipts so far that how much, like you said, there's only so much, whoever was doing the maintenance for the town,
Mm-hmm.
he can go to a certain limit as to outsourcing to whatever it was, carpenter, electrician, plumber, do we have right now, because I know it changed 6 months to a year from now, as to year-to-date, as to how much money have we spent to outsource somebody, as to what potentially could be saved, which I'm not expecting that right now from you. I'm
No.
just
Yeah.
asking
I
us,
don't know.
when you're trying to compare to that as to, but some jobs might be more expensive this year because of the buildings are getting older than it would be of being
Right.
this year. So knowing of how much money have we outsourced for somebody changing,
A light bulb, yeah.
electrical outlets or bulbs, as to, they're not gonna be touching ballast on these lights. They're gonna be calling an electrician
Well-
anyway, because they're not licensed to do it.
And-
So that's where, you're wondering out, how much are we saving for someone doing the maintenance, as to if the majority of the stuff is due to major plumbing, major electrical, and if it's just the little things of the,
Hole in the wall.
the hole in the wall, to be having a salary for that, I would say it would be maybe more important to having somebody being DPW and shoveling than someone that would be potentially maybe changing, because all these things right now, they're all ballast.
Correct.
They're all electronic ones, so that you would need an electrician to do it anyway. And are they licensed to do it? Do they want to do it? Are they qualified to do it? So you kind of find a limit of who this maintenance person
Right.
would be. How much money have we spent to outsource, as to really, when it comes to what's being done, is it just 8 hours maintenance? As to, okay, I did spend 8 hours in the library fixing lights, or in this building right here, fixing and patching up, to kind of figure out their labor-wise and materials.
So that
There
is,
was a
you know-
work order system in place once where you could go through that and find out, but I don't know if there's, I don't think there's been one in place
I think
lately.
they're actually using it. Let me check
Yeah,
in
that would
and
be a-
see,
yeah, that would have been a change.
and we can get the year-to-date, or help me, Linda, the ledger history and see what's been paid for. But I think it's important to realize that you're right, every one of these lights, and at Town Hall even, which is an older building, they're all ballast. So we're already calling an electrician in, and we do try to cost save by having lights out in the hallway, and we don't try to call for just one. And so then you have dark sections of
Dark
the
st-
building.
dark
But,
stairwell.
so we are doing those things already, and we are outsourcing it. So having somebody on staff isn't gonna necessarily save any money with those things, so.
So just another perspective I want you to have on this is we've got a DPW director, and we've told him for the last 2 years, he's lost at least 2 full-time people. And I think that I think you want your department heads and your DPW director to be able to make a call on, this is the number of people that you can have, what is the place that you think that they would be best served? So I think when you're making a decision like that, we're gonna put a maintenance person in your budget, which you may wanna do, and maybe he would agree to it. I think you need to talk with him and say, is this the next best hire in your department?
Well, we
Because
weren't gonna
he's the one.
change, that's why the numbers aren't in there. We're just moving it from the expense line up to the salary line. It wasn't, it's in the
Yeah.
building maintenance budget, in their budget. We
Well,
were just
Which is the
moving.
which is the
DP
DPW
is the
overall.
DPW.
It
And
is
so
the
Scott
overall,
could grab
But he
it.
has it in the budget.
Right, but Scott could grab it and immediately say, you know what, I need that highway person back because we had a really great program cleaning out the ditches, which stopped the roadway flooding, and that's where we need to focus the money. So it really is the department head who knows best what's in their department and what they need to
So
use
we'll-
the money for.
We will make sure that he's aware of this so that he can speak up if he wants to.
Sure.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right.
Who else wants to? Paul, you have anything?
Well, after taking a first, quick look
Yeah,
at
I
this.
didn't pass this to anybody
Yeah.
because I didn't wanna violate open meeting law, and so this was just some of my notes. Cause we had to come up with something, so I put notes down and this is my thoughts, so I just put it on paper so you could see what I was thinking, but it's not any, it's a surprise, I mean, it's just, we can't talk, ahead of time. so
No.
This is
So
how
one
we're
of the-
talking.
So one of the other things that we were looking at, we, with chief, the fire chief, potentially, he's been very open about it, he is retiring.
Mhm.
I mean, we can drop his budget once he gives his official notice. I know we can't drop it right now, but you're not gonna hire a new fire chief in here at his current salary of 25 years of
Right.
$147,000.
We don't-
So
we
you're
don't know that.
potentially saving,
Yeah.
I mean, you're potentially
Potentially.
saving $20,000-$30,000 there. So
Yeah.
that's another bucket that we can potentially have once he finally gives his notice. I know we can't drop it now because it's not official.
Yeah, we do have a lot of moving things
Yeah.
right now.
Right.
A lot.
One of the things from the meeting last night for the EMS, he gave me, where did it go? He gave me paperwork that he said there's $63,000 sitting in the pro EMS budget or whatever, wherever that is sitting. And he wanted to know.
Who he
Sorry, fire chief.
says there's 63 in, but not come to us.
He says it's there.
That has come to our budget.
He said it's in the bucket wherever this is, and can it be
Well,
moved
we're
to the
not pro
budget?
EMS, that's what I'm confused about. That's them.
Right, but he
Has
said-
this not been, you're saying it has been paid to us?
Yes, he said that's in our budget. That, he said that's somewhere in some account sitting somewhere, and he wanted to know if he could move it to the fire budget.
You know that we go back to your revenues and we used, that's not the amount that's sitting there. That we applied some of it over already. Ambulance. Revenue, ambulance. We're applying 55,000 already. On page 15. So we've already used it for the budget.
So there's
There's
another,
maybe another 10.
yeah, another 10 in there.
Yeah, I don't think, we might be using some of it that we used the last town meeting
Can
and
we
applied it
check
already.
that,
Sure.
please?
Is this extra, Pam, or you wanna send it to me?
No, you can, he
Or-
said he gave it to you, you can have it.
Okay, all right.
I just know it's there, I'll just
Yeah,
write it
no,
on
it
my
was
notes.
certainly our intention to use everything that we could out of that,
Yeah.
out of that balance. We did last year, we used 90,000. This year, actually, I guess it ended up being more than that. We ended up using 94. I think we increased it in the fall to 94,000, so, or is that and then this year, we could, because we're not doing the ambulance fees to that extent, I only projected, remember, we did this this is done in February,
Yeah.
projecting 55,000, and we didn't have 55,000 at the time, so if we have 63 now, I would be surprised, but I'll take a look.
Okay. And then another question that came up last night, and I don't think we can do this because I kind of asked Amy on the way in though. I was asked to bring up the subject of the CPA funds. We do what, 3% and we get matched by the state.
Yep.
If we put it in
Yeah.
CPA.
Yep.
She asked if we could not put it in CPA and just move it to the budget.
No,
I didn't know if we could do that.
No.
it is exclusive. Yeah.
Exclusive to CPA, okay.
Yes.
And the CPA funds are a gift to the town, and we got in early, and we get really great return on it.
I just had to ask,
Yeah.
because she
Just-
brought it up and asked me last
No,
night.
absolutely.
I've already asked if they could drop it down a point. They said no, so I've asked those
It
questions.
comes, but honestly, it just benefits you, the town. CPA benefits the town so much. And it's just money back from the state. And you know what? State funds, they're not reimbursing towns. They're not giving the towns the funds that they had promised. They're not bringing in their budget how they said they would. So let's not get rid of the one thing they are doing.
Yeah,
So
they
let's
really are.
let's keep that one that's flowing for us.
Okay, and then just for an update on because me and Jennifer had a conversation earlier today, the raise spreadsheet that I had, she's still working on it. So we don't have numbers or any details on it yet. It's still being worked on, it's coming.
Any idea when that
Well,
will be
you've
ready?
s-
Because I keep hounding
You
hand.
quit hounding Pam. Pam's great. Don't hound Pam. I'll take care of that one. Don't hound her. No, seriously. As you know, we lost our HR person, and I looked at the numbers. Linda looked at the numbers. It raised some questions for us, so we started doing a little digging. I've asked the select board to take it up in executive session. We're looking at it. I'm going to talk to the select board tomorrow night, and then the reality is, y'all know y'all are having another meeting. So you'll have another meeting. I'll be able to give it to Pam, and or I can come and talk to y'all, or Linda and I, or something. But it's coming, but I want to make sure I'm doing this correctly and just dotting the i's, crossing the t's, checking the commas. So.
I know there was a couple of numbers that were wrong, because I
Yeah.
redid it today, and there was, I
Yeah.
transposed a couple of numbers,
Yeah.
but yes.
But I mean, those were the quick and easy things for
Yeah.
us to catch. It was just when we started looking at things a little bit, we had some questions ourselves. So,
Okay.
but yeah, y'all are meeting next week too. I know it. So, you weren't hoping to be done tonight, right?
Oh,
No,
they're-
I didn't think
No,
we
we're
would.
not expecting any of that.
Okay.
So for me to understand, I'm trying to see the thing, so you said if there is a 500,000
Yeah.
override, it would add 2 firefighters at the salary of, with the benefits, that's what that 140 is, right?
Yeah, we have to double check all and tweak a little bit.
Right, no, I
Yeah.
That
understand.
was round numbers.
All right, and then after, when you're, what are we saying here when it comes to the schools? Are we, part of that would be going towards, of
Yeah,
that
well, right
override
now, we're
towards the school?
taking, right now, they need over 700,000 is what they need, but we're taking, out of this budget, you could see under the schools, it's 640 is what we're pulling from them.
Uh-huh.
So that gives them level funded, not level service, but level funded. So that would not give them an increase, that would just make them level service. But, I think that would become much closer than where we are now, where right now it would be, if they, and then didn't Annie have another meeting saying that she could make some little adjustments?
Yeah, they were looking at a new bus route, like combining the buses to be able to just bring that budget down just a little bit
Yep.
as well. So that might be enough to, giving them back the 640 that we originally took from them will give them level funding, and maybe with the tweaks that she's making on her side, they'll be okay. Because we don't wanna lose teachers, we don't wanna lose our school choice. I mean, we get big money in for that school choice.
Yep.
And if we let those teachers go,
Yeah.
we're gonna lose all our school choice students. We've gotta keep the schools level funded. So that will put them back up where they,
And I think if we can get that, it needs the override to do it, because there's clearly not enough money here, so we need the override to do that. But if we can keep the override low enough, the ask, I think people will say yes, and then it would happen. If we give everybody everything, I think the dollar amount is too much and we'll end up in the same spot we were last year.
we figure, I figured like 1.2 would be everything that we had plus the 2 firefighters. That was gonna be way too high.
When it came to the schools, having that discussion, didn't she say that by 28 they'd be losing, or they wouldn't be having any of their school choice money anyway? They'd be running out of that?
Well, if they keep, because they're using their school choice money to constantly use it for the operating budget. If we keep having them use all their school choice money for operating budget, that will deplete that quite fast.
Now, no different than we, as the finance committee, we told the town saying, you know, you can't be using your stabilization and your free cash. You need to try to do what you can to balancing their budget. They're using their school choice money
Yeah.
to run their budget, right? So,
Yeah.
There is a difference
Okay.
between school choice money and free cash and stabilization. We fill our own stabilization account at town meetings by moving over what we have in free cash. And free cash is something that we just have left over in our own budget, or we got more revenues or spent less money. School choice as, funds are actually it's an income that they receive every year based on the students that are in. So they get a certain amount in through the cherry sheets, and they get state aid that pays for them. So if they're spending it down, it's not about, it doesn't go down, 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 and it's gone. So every year, so when she says we're spending it every year, they're not necessarily spending it down, they're spending what they take in.
I was just kind of
So,
relating
yeah.
to it as to, you
Right,
know, for
right.
us to have
Oh,
our own
you know,
checks and
I understand.
balances, we need to either not spend so much, have some cuts where,
Sure.
you know, and I know it's a revolving door because the seniors graduate, new freshmen come in, and it all depends as to the needs of those kids for
Yeah.
what they have. But
Well-
I'm seeing is that if those numbers are going down, are those numbers of those classrooms, are they fixed at a certain number? Are they, you know, are they maxed out? Maybe they are, maybe they're
Are you
not.
talking about classroom size?
Classroom size.
Right.
Keep them at like under 30, I think
Annie,
she said,
Annie
yeah.
addressed that to y'all. She told y'all what she liked to keep the numbers
Right,
at.
so it's, and I know it all depends on as to the student that might need those special needs, cause it, you know, like I said, this year might be an upperclassman that we're creating a revenue, or getting a revenue from another town that might be 20,000, but then after a freshman that comes in, it might be only 10,000. So I know those numbers are going to
They
swing.
do.
I understand
They
that. I understand that completely. But it still comes down to me saying, okay, we're depleting those numbers, and is it because of how much staffing do we have? Do we have full-time speech therapists? Do we have full-time therapists? That if we are fixed at a certain amount because we have only so many students, but our spending is so high, it's, to me, it's like how we were bringing up to the town, either you need to stop spending, have some cuts to do something, because we're stuck at so many students per classroom.
Right.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I think.
So
So-
you know,
She changes a lot, so in the schools, they have to adapt to who's in the schools.
Of course.
So they've changed their staffing. But basically, how I've seen it in the past is the schools have only been getting 1%, maybe 2%. Then they give us back money. They give us back more money. So in my mind, we need to support the schools. We don't want the schools supporting the town. The town needs to support the schools. So I feel that their numbers, if we looked at the pie, they kept, the amount that we're giving them has been less and less and less. So I feel like they've done a good business. So they're found different ways to make their money. I don't know about each teacher or how they're moving, right? How, like, sometimes they need specialists in some cases, sometimes they don't. Depending on the years and what kids are in and what
Mhm.
kids are out. But I feel like they've done such a responsible, good job that, we need to support them. And so I haven't gone in to question exactly what teacher does what, or who they have, because I feel like they've been very fiscally responsible. And that was where I came up with wanting to give it all back. But I understand where you're coming from.
that way, and, you know, of other ways of, you know, we're always trying to just have some ideas, see if they actually work when it comes to revenues. This is pretty much, this is just like a sounding board. I know that there was some thoughts that if they're not getting what they want, they're gonna be cutting the after-school program, potentially sports, of whatever. This is, you know, now, being of the younger kids and a parent that has kids, when it comes to CYO basketball and Cal Ripken, we have to pay to have our kids play. Is there anything wrong where you have certain, you know, I don't know about other schools where it's football or lacrosse, that those students, or parents should I say, pay for that equipment for that student? That, is there a reason why that yes, it's fun to play sports, that maybe to help paying for the coaches' salaries, to help paying for the referees, that, you know, you pay for a student that wants to play a sport to pay into it.
So I don't know enough about how the school side works for sports here,
Mhm.
and so I'm not going to address that. I do trust in Dr. McKenzie and what she's doing, so I feel that there's a reason behind why she's doing it. It's probably to provide equity. If y'all don't charge, I'm imagining that's the basis of it, is to provide equity. I'm sure that y'all do have a athletic boosters. Any parents over there nodding at me? Yeah. So y'all are they're definitely already supporting. With the schools though, I do want to keep in mind that it's a number is what we're talking about, not what they're doing.
No,
So
no,
just-
I'm
okay,
just,
I'm
I'm just,
just- I
no,
wanna
no,
remind
not
us
at all.
all of
I'm just
that,
saying about
yeah.
when it comes to, you know, to cutting, to creating revenues, to trying to make the difference between the two.
Right.
Because it's always been one of those things, you know, you pay your taxes and your kids are playing all kinds of sports and we're
Mhm.
giving all the things to our kids. Well, things are getting tougher as to, okay, is there something wrong? If someone said, okay, for your kid to play, you gotta spend $200 to play basketball, okay, I would do that. for my kid to play.
Right.
You know,
I think that was the origin of the Boosters Clubs.
Right, exactly.
Which are the parents whose kids are playing.
Right.
That are
Right.
raising the
Right.
money for it. So I think, you know, that was,
You know, just,
you know.
So-
you know,
where
whether
it
if
came
it, you
from.
know, talking to her separately and say, hey, how about has she thought about these ideas instead
Yeah.
of, you know, to all of us?
Right.
Right here, maybe that might be something to do as to ideas, suggestions,
Yeah.
and maybe she's already thought of them.
Yep.
I would be
She'll take
surprised
any-
if she
she'll
hasn't.
take any questions.
Because, but she's, yeah, I mean, absolutely, send her an email, she's so responsive to them. But I just assume that Dr. McKenzie has already had all of the 47 thoughts I had and 28 more that I never thought of already. That's what I'm expecting from her at all times, is that she's just leaps and bounds. So, but I mean, there, you know, it might be that, but I'm gonna be honest, even if we started charging probably every student at Hopkins who played a sport, and I'm gonna base it off of Northampton High School, which is where my kid played sports, I paid $110 a year. We're not gonna solve this with $110 per student at Hopkins, which I wish I could tell you the number of kids, but even if every kid was playing a sport, we're still at most gonna be 10 grand. And that's being very generous, assuming all of your children do fencing, and I'm assuming you're all parents, I'm sorry. I'm assuming that's, you know, all your kids are doing fencing and football and lacrosse, and the town is supplying everything. I don't think it'll be that big punch of funds that we would want.
And I also know that she's using some of the school choice money, I know she's using it to balance the budget instead of making repairs at the school as
Right.
well.
If-
She's not doing things in the school that need to be fixed because she's using it to help balance the budget.
Right. It's
So
dipped,
she's
it's
behind
dipped
the-
into their
but
capital.
She's behind the eight
Yeah.
ball there too.
I know that, yeah, some of her capital expenses were less in the past because she was able to use school choice for that. That's a good point.
Anything else? Do you have anything?
Well, after looking at this quickly, it seems like it's a good starting point here, and we're able to identify about $380,000
Do you have,
within the budget,
yeah,
and we have restorations of about 60,000, and then
what do you think about the dollar amount of the override ask?
the dollar amount seems fair to me. I think, you know, obviously I wouldn't want to see anything, but I obviously realize the town has to function too, it can't be strangled, and so that's a fair amount in my opinion, because you're looking at roughly every 150,000 is 1%, so that's whatever, 1, 2, 3, 3
And so,
percent, plus the 2.5 that it can go up.
right, so it.
So
at
you're
tw-
up to almost 6% for a tax increase.
Yeah, so at 500,000, it's 36 cents per thousand. So a $550,000 home would be about $200 increase for the year
Mm-hmm.
with the $500,000
And across
override.
the board, it'd be like 6% for everybody. And I think, like I said earlier at a meeting with the selectmen, I'm a firm believer in compromise. And this kind of represents a good compromise because you're asking the taxpayers to pony up a little more. And I think the town, after these budget hearings, they've shown good faith effort to do their best. And, you know, one of the things that I would like to see, probably because of my past life, but, you know, I'd like to see a restoration somehow in the assistant treasurer's line item, because, you know, Linda kind of tipped her hand at one of the meetings, and the retirement horizon is getting closer, and
Mhm.
that's a really
And you
crucial,
did the same thing?
very
Yeah, I
crucial
mean, if you-
position.
Yeah,
And
if she,
you
I'd
need
really
to have
rather not
somebody
have
in
her
there.
time divided with another department that is not going to get her towards the future, I know that.
And you have to have a unique set of skills to just walk into that job. It's not
You're
nothing,
losing the expertise.
anybody off the streets. It's a whole different animal versus the private sector. It's a whole different job, different accounting, different laws altogether. The emphasis isn't on profitability, it's on accountability here. And, you know, you have a good person in there as the assistant, and Linda wants to eventually walk away from this. So if there's somehow, some way that we could work that in, that's why I asked you what the amount is that would be.
Right. Paul knows what he's talking about.
And I know
He's done it before.
we added back in the admin for the fire department too, because with the fire chief retiring, she's been in what, 30 years? She's got all that expertise in her head, and if you let her go or move her down to half-time, you're losing that.
No, I think they were gonna let her go.
Yeah, they were letting her go or splitting her.
No, I think they were gonna let her go and then split
Split
the
the
police chief's
Police chief.
person
Right,
in half.
yes.
Yeah.
But my thinking was, if it's possible, cause I started thinking, well, for the police, I thought they had 3 cadets out all this past
Yeah.
year that were in training. Plus, we were down a fire chief because he's been so busy with town administrator
Police
stuff.
chief, yeah.
Police chief, sorry, police chief. So that's 4 people right there. Now he's coming back and we got the 3 cadets in. We are losing 1 position of the police. So I'm
Yes.
thinking that instead of increasing the overtime, maybe we could take a little from the overtime budget to replace the money for that to put back into his admin.
Make his admin whole too.
If you were, where I'd come up with that would be from his own
Overtime.
budget, from the overtime budget. Because
Okay.
in my mind, if you were down 4 people, now you're down 1, instead of the overtime going up, I'm hoping it's going to go down.
Okay. So the reason why we made that recommendation for eliminating the fire chief's admin was because we were looking at the person in that position cannot do full-time work. So we looked over at the admin in the police department who could take that on, and we're looking at what they need to do. The invoice is the same, the details are the same. The grant writing, which the police admin does grant writing, fire admin I believe is helping with grant writing. So we were looking at the comparability between these 2 admin positions, because public safety admins are a little different. So that's what we were doing, was looking at them, and we thought that would be an easier transition and still have that skill set there for the town that we needed. So, but I do see where you're coming from with her experience as a firefighter being beneficial to the town.
It is tricky when you're trying to talk about positions and workloads and you've got people.
Well, well, you
And
asked
people
that,
and
and it did
experience.
have to do with people,
I know,
because,
there are people come in with different skill sets, different number of years of experience, and so you wanna hold on to your experienced people, but now you're describing a position versus it is, and this is why this has been very difficult all around for trying to make that distinction, and strike the balance between departments, especially when you're trying to talk about valuable support staff in
Well-
multiple departments, and the cuts have to come somewhere, so.
well, like treasurer
Yeah.
collector, that's a combination that many towns use, treasurer collector as a combination.
And we may see that going forward.
But I like the fact that you have, like, treasurer in building. I mean, the fact is that you guys can help out in different spots and fill in with different spots, which is fabulous, that you.
Cross-trained.
Cross-training is a great thing.
Mhm.
So, when I was looking at some of this, it was a lot to do with people. If someone else needs help, I think it's great that you help each other. The bottom line is,
Yeah.
we were trying to save some people, and at the same time, trying to get,
Right.
Everything covered.
everything
Yeah.
covered.
We have found when the
Like what-
sharing between buildings is
It's not easy,
not just not work.
but there's some
it just
benefits.
doesn't work.
It's not easy,
Yeah.
but there's benefits
Yeah.
from it when
Yeah.
when people are out, like, look at what Dee Dee has done since we've had troubles in our building department. She's done fabulous helping out.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
If
Definitely
we
stepped
would
up.
be
Yes.
crushed without her.
Yeah.
We're big
Yeah.
fans.
Yep. And we're hoping that this is just something we get past
Yeah.
and getting the building department fully functioning on its own again.
My other question is, and it's been brought up as to that, I guess, cafeteria style that we were talking about. Now, would this be going directly towards the fire department and the fire department only? what would this override be going to? Would this just be this 1 year, or then after, when it comes to the next year, then it goes to everybody that wants to have it, and then the question's always been that if we hire more firemen,
Well, we can answer that one part.
firefighters, that are we gonna have the budget to support paying for them when somebody else is taking that money out of that pie? That's the big question, that, the concern that the fire chief had.
So this is definitely a by-board conversation. However, I will say if you do a cafeteria style, if you do a general override, whichever the decision is made, the override for 1 year is directed.
Mhm.
The funds are directed to that department. After that, it goes into the general fund of the town. And that's how overrides work.
But you already have,
That's just how it goes, that's just,
How it goes.
you
1
can't
year-
just assign, say, we
one-
want this
you-
to
you
be for
get-
the fire department,
You
that's
get-
it.
You know, you do 1 year,
Okay.
yeah.
Alright.
but then you've got all their salaries and everything already in the budget for the next year after that, so they're
Yeah,
just, they're all accounted for. You're not gonna take them back out next year and say, nope, sorry.
What she
I can't
said.
imagine not. I mean,
Right.
I mean, that's the, once it's in there, because
Now
the
you've
town
raised
has said,
taxes.
this is where we want the money to go. What kind of a finance committee would you be to say the next year, we disagree, we're gonna put it somewhere else? We're gonna go along with the votes of the town, don't you think?
I'm just asking the question of how it works.
That's what it is, but obviously, that's a by-board discussion.
Yeah, I'm
between
sure it'll come up
the
tomorrow night.
select board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have any?
Thank you.
No, you're talking addition here of $50 a quarter added onto their tax bill, and that's much lower than I was expecting. And that's I don't have any surplus cash myself, but I would consider that a deal.
It's better than it was last year.
Do you have anything that you wanna add? Or,
No, we were just here in case you had questions, or if y'all were gonna ask us about the 490s, like, that's why we were here, was just to
Okay.
try to answer any questions that y'all might have for,
And also to help you be better prepared for tomorrow night, if there's
Okay.
things on here that you want, I have notes that I'm going to check out that health insurance more
Okay.
specifically.
perfect.
I'm going to.
Or if you see other numbers that can move somewhere.
see-
I didn't even do revenues, maybe there's more in revenues.
Oh,
Linda,
that's our.
I was gonna
our-
ask about that, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Now that the third quarter's completed, can we get some figures for revenue?
The third quarter is over, doesn't mean, but we're not in and posted yet.
Right,
Because the bank
right.
statements, you know those
It's a little
banks,
early.
Paul,
A
and,
little
and-
early.
yeah.
Get out.
Yeah,
It's all online.
yeah,
It's all online the very next day now.
usually, yes, and then, so it's a matter of, we balance all of the accounts first and make sure that we haven't missed anything, and then those revenues, Dee Dee's on that one, and, we get the expenses actually in before we have the revenues ready, but I'm quite sure we're definitely not gonna have it for tomorrow night, but we should have it for just about any meeting next week, if we can get it in,
Excellent.
posted by the end of this week.
I didn't really, I know that we could talk about stipends, but
Were we able to get a list of the stipends that are currently being given?
I didn't know that was an ask.
Yeah, I didn't either, it's,
But it's okay.
planning and zoning, I think is it.
Oh, yeah, for
Is that the
the,
only
for
one?
the, I'm sorry, for the boards and committees.
Oh, yeah, that's
I
right.
was about to
yeah.
run through, I was like, well, the burial
no.
agent and then the emergency director, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just-
those two.
It's zoning and planning board are the only two left. I believe we took healths a couple years ago too, when we hired Ben, I think
And
we snatched
assessors.
up Del.
the other one I wanted to look at was, there was one more thing that I was questioning on here, but is, I really would love to give some of, I know we give 15,000 of the opioid money to the Board of Health, but I would love to give it to the police or the fire.
Police department already receives opioid money.
Where?
They already
They-
what?
Police already receives opioid money.
No, they're not using
They're
it.
not using it, but they have it. It comes towards them.
Yeah, but he's not spending it.
I thought he was
um,
using it as part of Warren Hannigan's
No,
salary.
he said not this year.
Oh,
And he
okay.
didn't put it in for next year.
Okay.
It is the, it's, the department heads have to come up with that, Amy, and
Yeah.
come up with the programs, and Ben's got us, and there's a lot more scrutiny now, sometimes.
I know
our-
there's more
some-
scrutiny
yeah.
in how it can be spent,
Yeah,
but
sometimes
I feel
we're
like
getting
our-
in trouble, but ours is like, that one is like square on.
I
the-
get that, that's why I
but,
think it needs research done to see how we
so-
can do it, but I'd rather
Yeah.
give it to us than to give it to a nonprofit somewhere else. I'm just saying, if we're doing it, and we're doing some of the work, and we're out there, and they
Well-
using that with the Narcan, can we use that money?
Well, one of the,
to
Don't
support
think we
us?
pay for Narcan, just FYI, I'm pretty sure,
No.
I like you, you're very interactive. I don't think we pay for the Narcan, I believe that is, given to us by the state,
Okay,
just,
but one reason the police money isn't being spent is because it's covered by another grant. And so when you can get grant to cover something, that means we get to hold the opioid funds another year. So there might come a time when we need to switch that over.
yeah.
But if it was used to spend on a dedicated employee, that money would be gone in about a year. But so we have to pace it. It's not going to come in indefinitely. I don't know exactly
Oh.
where it is right now, but yeah, we look at it every
and it comes in
year.
waves.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, no, keep asking, but I think that we're done for 26, and the requests are done for 27, but we can't use it to actually supplement our regular budget. So that won't help in our 27 budget.
no,
I wish it could.
that's why
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
wish
put it
it
in
could.
there. I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep asking though.
Do it. Keep asking.
I know there's money there, I just want to pull it. So,
We try. We get what we can. Same with the ambulance. I mean, well, most of what's coming in on the ambulance are older collections, and we're not really generating that much new. So it is it's a dwindling.
Except we've done one transport this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Not surprised.
Well, that's amazing that we've gotten this much money.
Yeah, one transport, I'm amazed that they
There's
were
3
able to
calls
do
and
it.
1 transport, because we had
Did,
our meeting last night.
Yeah.
the meeting last night, did they talk about the leasing of the other ambulance?
No. It did not come up.
That's something that, you know, it's gonna have to be discussed
Yeah.
when the time comes and
So,
feel like
they have that second ambulance, and they've talked about that. If, that comes in, will we, and they end up leasing that, and that's money that comes in, where will that go? Will that go right to fire, or will that will come into the
general fund.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah, stabilization, wasn't that stabilization or free cash? What did we use to purchase it?
we used both.
So, yeah, that came from the town's general, so it would make sense that the
Yeah.
lease would come to the town's general. And you know, when we're talking about this, and we're talking about the town and the fire and the police budget and who gets the money and who gets the money and everything, let's just all remember it's the same pot. It's you know,
Yep.
it's the same pot of money. It's, you know, it's not the school, it's not the town, this is the town of Hadley, the whole shebang's money. It's the police department, the fire department. So even if it goes into the general fund, it doesn't mean it doesn't benefit the fire department. And I'm just gonna, while we're advocating and looking at making things whole, I know that the admin position for the town administrator's office does not currently exist, but it did exist, and it was budgeted, and in all this time, I've asked for it, I got it. It was full-time. Carolyn didn't want to do it because she wasn't sure how she could use the person. Meanwhile, I knew exactly what that person was gonna do. Like, we had jobs for them to take, and she just didn't feel like it was the right time, so she didn't fill the position. And so then they asked, can we cut it to halftime? And I said, yes, we can cut it to halftime. I still know what I want to do. And then it came into the override, and we had to start cutting people and looking at everything. I like all my coworkers. Of course, I don't want my coworker to leave if I'm bringing somebody in. But this year, with the changes, with me taking on HR, with a new TA coming in, you're gonna want admin support in there more than just the minutes. That's just the reality of it. And I'm just saying, while we're looking at this, that's something I would like y'all to consider. COA has an admin assistant, the police have an admin assistant, the fire chief has an admin assistant. The DPW has 2. Like, all of these departments have admin assistants. but your town administrator's office does not have an admin assistant. So that just, I want to put that out there and just sort of have it ruminating in your brain, taking off my, how can I help you with questions? And I'm advocating for my department. That this is something that I would just like y'all to keep in mind. You've got it cut to 53. I think putting it at halftime would be, you know, is reasonable situation, but it's something I do want to keep in mind, and it's something I'm going to keep advocating for with y'all and the select board
Sure.
right up till the bitter end.
Is this 54 full-time?
Yes, and honestly, when you're trying to place somebody somewhere, what I did is I looked at the grade, and I was a grade D. I'm not asking for a me. I'm literally asking for an admin. So I dropped it down, and then I looked at the step 5. And to be honest, I would look hard to try to get it under that, but that's the best way to go about it, is you try to pick that mid-range and go there. So it's an admin, it's not a procurement officer. I would have them do the licensing, but that's neither here nor there, but it's an admin, going back to sort of what my position was before I started with the town 10 years ago. And I do think there's a need for it.
It's something that could be used as one of the shared positions. This all, you know, temporarily. In fact, Dee Dee's also covering some HR right now. So, which is.
She's got lots of hats.
She does.
At
I mean, we.
this point,
we
we're
kinda
all wearing-
We all bop around.
So,
something.
I mean, yeah,
So,
you're the same people, and if
I
you're
know.
moving, like, and you're taking, moving the collector's area, move to some, when you move some of the,
Right.
if you're using the same.
Mine's gonna
Right.
get funky though, because you can't have somebody in a union in the town administrator's office. So that one, that's where it gets weird for that building, for that department. We can't have a union employee in that office. But anyway, this isn't for tonight to solve. I just thought I'd throw my hat in there and say, really guys, we wanna make sure we're supporting.
All right, well, we have a lot of people here that are, and we don't usually have public comment. We don't have any public comment. There are a lot of people here.
Can I don't know if it's not on the agenda,
Yeah.
but we had a capital planning committee
Yeah.
meeting. I didn't know if you wanted to hear a quick report on it,
Oh, yeah, because we probably should do that, and then,
and Peter's really our liaison, so I don't know if you wanna do it or you wanna.
Go
just-
ahead.
Okay, we met this afternoon, and we had a capital budget that consisted of 8 individual items, and 7 of those were for the DPW, 1 was for the school department, and we had 1 withdrawal, meaning for the ballistic vest. And most of these items were what was presented at the fall town meeting that
Yep.
was voted
all
down.
but one, yeah.
And so there's a few that aren't on from that meeting. but-
And few dropped off, right, too.
Just a real quick overview of what we're looking at this afternoon. The first one that Scott talked to us about was Chapter 90 supplement. That was a $100,000 amount, and that's for items like line painting and, can you read my
Was it
writing?
culverts?
Yeah,
Culvert
culverts,
repair?
culvert repair and culvert cleaning.
Cleans.
Clean outs. And then sewer asset, that's for $100,000 borrowing. The next item is sewer asset management, $300,000, that's also a borrowing item, and, you know, they have a huge backlog of things they need to do in the sewer department, but this is at least to take care of some of the more critical items that are coming up. And it's the same, again, he also has the same dollar request for the water asset management, exact same issues. There's a lot going on there. $300,000, again, that would be a borrowing article. And the last one is the highway MS4 program, that's actually a requirement, that's for stormwater retention and, you know, cleaning of, separation of water runoff, street sweeping, and items like that from the storm entering into our sewer system. And that's actually something we have to do every year. And then we have a water management grant for $14,000, that's from water reserves, and that item, will allow us, that's the town's match, we can get a $100,998 state grant. And that's gonna be used to help with the Mount Warner wells and a water filtration or treatment plant to get the Mount Warner wells eventually up and running. And then there's, again, we saw this, the SCADA system, it's the reporting, internet-based reporting from the wells back to the DPW garage. So that's a small one from water reserves, $15,000. And the last item is a newbie. It wasn't on at the fall town meeting, it's to look at getting the Callahan well redeveloped. I guess is the way I was talking to Scott about this the other day, and he was saying that eventually when they're pulling in the water, it's like there's screens or whatever, maybe you know more about this, Peter, but the dirt is starting to infiltrate, and they're not pulling at the full capacity that they should be. So this is something that comes up every so many years,
How much is that?
and they have to remediate that. That's for $45,000. And that also, Amy's coming out of water reserves. So that takes care of the DPW. The last item on the list is the school security upgrades, and that was at the last town meeting here. I initially asked for $350, but Dr. McKenzie at our meeting this afternoon said she pulled out a few items, deferred them actually, and she's looking for 2 items for $137 and some change. And those are for cameras on the stop bars on school buses to try to catch the people that are running around the red lights on the school buses. And then the other item was for.
I thought that was $15,000 on
It is.
those bars.
It is, but then there's another,
What was the other, the big one?
Then there was
Another
another for the
item.
vestibules, and then after it was
No,
for the
that's-
shades.
Not the
the
vestibules.
shades, the
Yeah,
shades.
shades.
In case there was ever an incident at the schools, they could do the lockdown, pull the shades so nobody could see,
Mhm.
you know, where people
Mhm.
are. So those are the 2 items that you'll see at the town meeting, because the capital planning committee voted to approve of all of these items.
Yep.
So now it's in the finance committee's hands.
Right, but that will be part of when you go through the budget and, through the warrant, I mean, and make your recommendations. But,
So I think that we'll set another meeting, we'll meet with the, tomorrow we're gonna meet with the buy board. I think we'll set another meeting for us to do the voting, so that we'll, just after we meet with, the buy board, we can actually vote for the budget and then vote for the whole warrant. And then when you do that, we'll probably go through each line item again, because we're gonna be voting on it, each one. And then I will watch the since, I took the CPA after they've already met, I'll make sure I update myself on all their meetings and report back on all CPAs.
Okay,
Articles.
also, Amy, Linda was talking about, you can
yeah.
jump in about some unexpended capital projects from
Yeah.
years past.
We'll be redirecting some borrowing articles that, the biggest one being the senior center has $215,000 to return. We've already borrowed the money, so we can't return it to any funds, but we can redirect it into other borrowings. So we should be able to cover the school borrowings with redirected funds. So instead of having, that's one, we have $215,000 for the general fund borrowing, we have $70,000 to redirect for the sewer borrowing, and we have about $12,000 to redirect for the water borrowing, and that's gonna be good.
Do you know how much free cash do we have? Do we have any?
We have the same amount of free cash that we ended, whatever is reported in the bank, I think it's 400 and something thousand? 548, about 550,000 in free cash.
500?
And then Linda also, because of the ballistic vest being taken care of, that was gonna be funded with free cash
Yes,
out of capital, so that should.
right,
go
so we're
forward.
not using that, yeah,
Yes.
so we're not spending any free cash on capital, just water reserves on capital,
Mhm.
but not
Water
the
and
free
sewer.
cash. We will be spending free cash on the warrant. Yes, we will, Pam.
I knew that was coming.
The employee compensation with people leaving,
Yeah.
we have to replenish the
that, yeah.
employee compensation fund. Is that the only one? I think that might be the only one that I can think of. Well, our warrant's not closed, so,
Yeah.
I
but,
don't want more money for that,
but,
FYI.
but that's what free cash is for, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's gonna be at least 100K, and I might even, she and I are gonna
Yeah,
fight it
well,
out, but it
we're
might be more
counting,
than
we're
that.
counting heads right now of who's likely to leave
Can
in the
we-
next year.
Put on the warrant, just a thought, to move some of the free cash that we don't use into the capital, reserve.
We can, Amy. I don't know why, but we've traditionally done it at the fall town meeting. But can we? Yeah, we can. We can put it away because otherwise, I mean, it's going to sit. It's going to sit and wait until the fall. Otherwise, also,
I mean, it'd be nice to start building that up again.
it would, but not
that
a
we
whole
have
lot of it.
money
We also
capital.
have to make sure we leave enough to cover whatever happens at the end of the year. We know, for example, that snow and ice is significantly overspent, and that's not going to be able to be made up from the returns from other departments. It's going to hit our free cash, so we want to make sure that we can cover it from the free cash that we have. The free cash will be certified again July 1, so there'll be new calculations. They're done once a year.
But if
And-
we could start to try to do that process at some point, to start to rebuild that,
Yeah.
that was always a thought that we tried.
Well,
To do for the spring or to do in the fall? I really would like to encourage us to stick with the fall.
so I think that, yeah, I think that's a good discussion that we
Yeah,
might,
that's true.
you might want to have it at a meeting. We'll discuss whether we want it to be spring or fall, and then have it, have an article put on. I would say to get in the habit of having the article on, even if it was 20,000 one year and 300,000 the next, to have it on for
Every year.
something every year, so it doesn't have to be, a new idea each year. Should we do that again? The question each year would be, how much?
Well, that's why I was thinking the
Yeah.
fall, because you
Yeah.
don't know how much until the fall.
Yep.
Because,
Well,
because of overspends on snow and ice and things like that. So I think it would be beneficial. I think it's a great idea, and I think we should definitely look at it for the fall, because we're coming up to it. So you put 200,000 in, and then you need an additional 115 for snow and ice, and then you've already sort of done this.
Yep.
So I think it's just cleaner in the fall.
And in the fall, you probably have your new certification too by then,
oh, yes,
which would help.
we hope.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Did you have a question about revenues, Paul? You started to ask a question and then.
Well, it's just about the 9-month revenues. We talked about.
Oh, the year-to-dates.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, okay, all right. Do you have anything else on the warrant?
That's it.
Okay.
All right. Well, because we never have people come to our meetings. But, so that's why I don't usually put public comment in. And then when we've had a few questions here and there, we've just let people ask questions. So if there's anything
Alex.
anybody wants to say,
People are back
if
there.
you'd
Can
like
you
to
pick them
say
up?
something.
Yes, Christine
Can you
Markowski
pick them-
from the
can you pick her
Terrace.
up here?
Mr. Matusko, you mentioned you were talking about athletics at Hopkins and things like that, and I just wanna give you some clarification on some of it. We do have boosters. Boosters pay for uniforms. For all of the sports that we have, they have a rotating system. And I do believe that they pay for buses in the postseason. As far as equipment, of all the sports that we have, baseball and softball require the most equipment. We don't have football, lacrosse. And usually, I would say 99% of the time, that equipment is brought by the students themselves. The school does not provide, other than the balls for soccer, basketball, baseball, and softball, because those have to be very specific ones that the school pays for. So we're not really paying for equipment, like personal equipment. And as far as the school choice meeting, I remember watching your meeting when Dr. McKenzie met with you and went over her slideshow, her presentation. I believe she was talking about with school choice that they were using it for repairs for boilers. They had, I think both cafeterias lost their washers and they had to get the industrial sized one. So that's money that she's using
Mhm.
from school
No, I
choice,
understand.
that's depleting, but it's not just from the like, that's stuff that the town's not paying for.
Mhm.
So I think she's trying to help out and it always is showing in good faith to do well by the town. So, I just wanted to say that.
That's helpful.
Thank you.
No other comments?
I think when it comes to school, there's a few things that people need to really consider. And I know that.
Can you introduce yourself first,
Sure,
please?
sure. My name's Mike Nemeth. I live on Sylvia Heights. I've been in town for about 4.5 years.
Thanks.
I think that when it comes to schools, one of the things you need to consider is like, is the support programs that oftentimes don't make the front page, as in a manner of speaking, one of which is the after-school program. You're looking in a world now where daycare is almost non-existent. And without those support services, not to mention also the special educational support and the health support and the developmental support, that impacts parents. That affects whether or not they can hold a job, whether or not it can be a full-time job, and it does impact the cost on them as far as what they're outlaying at home. So if you have to make up for that cost through some other means, now you have one less person working, bearing more of a load. You know, so I think that that's something to take a look at. The after-school programs are pretty key, they're really important to be supported.
And they pay, right?
Pardon?
The families pay.
They do, but I wouldn't imagine that it's 100% supported, but I'm sure that there's a lot more involved than just that. So, it's not 100% burden on the town, that's for sure. But I think that the school budget is something that bears a little bit more looking at. A couple of things we talked about tonight, and I heard the numbers come up where you're looking at a $500,000 override proposal. And I believe the numbers brought out that you were saying that's $50 a quarter. That's a drop in the bucket. One of the problems that I hear oftentimes when we're talking about money in this town is we got people looking at the town from the inside. We're not looking at it from the outside. Whether you can call it a curse or a blessing, I've lived in several places in this state and several places in this country. And the tax burden here in Hadley is remarkably low in comparison. It's one of the reasons I moved here. It really is. Besides the fact that I'm a farm boy and I'm living up there, looking at farmland, it's gorgeous, I absolutely love it. But $50 a quarter, whereas I do understand and respect the fact that some folks may see that as a significant increase. When I look at what's going on around us, it's a drop in the bucket. And I think that we can do a little bit better as far as supporting the school program. I think it's remarkable what you're talking about giving back to them, which is better than $800,000 slash. But I think we can do better at giving them half that. I think we could do a little bit more, and I think it should be more of a priority. Because that directly impacts a lot of the families, not only who already live here, but those who are looking to move here as well.
I couldn't agree more. That's half the reason I'm here. We gotta take care of the schools. We have to take care of our kids. Our kids are our future. We have to take care of our schools.
Yeah,
That should be number one.
Yep. It's like when you're looking at an automobile. It may be a stretch for some folks, but I remember when I was growing up, a lot of times people would talk about a car as being an investment. It's not. It's a hole in the road you shovel money into. School systems aren't that way. They are an investment. It's an investment that doesn't pay off in the short term, it pays off in the long term. And that's what brings your residents in, that's what brings your business in. If we want to grow Hadley, want to grow our revenue, that's one place we shouldn't be shrinking it.
I totally agree. I know, sorry. Watching Annie's presentation, you guys have done a phenomenal job with these kids and the programs that you've got, and I fully support that we need to give you guys whatever we can.
And because Dr. McKenzie as our leader has put together such wonderful programs, gotten in so many grants, and we have so many new wonderful programs, we're seeing now so many more school choice coming in. And I mean, I don't know the exact number for next year, but I've heard that we've gotten more applications and calls about school choice for next year than we ever have. So if we cut the schools, we're gonna lose that. And we don't wanna lose that. We wanna give, both my girls had a wonderful education going through the schools. Your two boys, your daughters, Amy.
3.
And yours, wonderful. I mean, all our town kids and other kids from other areas deserve to benefit the way our kids did.
Yeah,
And
we don't want them to go to private school either. We want them to go through our public school system. That's why we all live here and support the town.
Exactly.
We gotta make sure that they have everything they need. We all had it as kids in school. Like, we gotta make sure our kids get the same exact thing. That's our job as parents.
And life
Make
is
sure
more
they get that.
competitive, we've gotta give them that edge.
Absolutely.
I'd like to make two comments.
Mhm.
I'm Lindsay Roberts. I actually don't live in town, but I work at Hopkins, and we actually school of choice our children here. One of the big things that hasn't really been discussed as much is that the preschool will be slashed. That is a huge feeder program to the schools. This year, there's 60 kids in the preschool, which is more than ever. They've expanded to 3 classrooms. Those teachers work so hard, and we are trying our hardest to keep the kids in the school district. We're bringing in a ton of out-of-district kids. So I think that would be just an abomination to the school district. That'd be number one. Number two, we do bring a lot of school of choice in, and us teachers are working really hard, similarly, with multiple positions. I'm a department chair. We're constantly writing grants to offset those costs. The school of choice, we're bringing in programs and all these new great incentives to bring in school of choice to offset the kids that leave. Particularly the kids who have in recent years been choosing to go to the Voc School, which is a great school, but it costs $20,000 per kid versus bringing in $5,000 for school of choice. So for one kid to go to Voc, it's 4 school of choice kids in that basically would like offset that. So I think by slashing all these programs and cutting the jobs, it's gonna make it harder for us to keep bringing in these grants to offset those costs. So I think that and slashing the preschool would absolutely lead to the closing of a 360-something-year-old school in the next decade. And I think that is something none of us wanna be a part of, because I've seen the town pride, which is why we send our children here. That's a big part of it.
And I've been here now 21 years, and I've never seen anything like it, where a school system, games, events, concerts, that the graduation that the whole town comes to, we take such pride in our schools. We don't want to lose that. And I think people who have graduated from here, alumni, and just residents, they don't want to see, it would be so bad if we folded. And if we couldn't keep up what we have now. It is a great source of pride for this whole town.
So I know you don't see the numbers and you don't all have the books in front of you. The numbers that we were coming up with was, when we kept saying 640, that is the number in which we're pulling this year from the schools. That was the amount in the book that we were pulling from them. So that is where that number came from. And that's, we do believe in the school system too, so, we are.
But that would only keep us whole for this fiscal year coming up, right? Like, is this gonna have to be a reoccurring meeting every single year or every other year to keep our schools status quo? Like, what's the vision of getting us above the hump? Like you said, $50 a quarter is a drop in the bucket. I will gladly spend more of my money in tax money to give you guys as the finance committee the tools to do your job and have capital money and have a bank account to do this stuff to us, and we'll trust you guys to do it, but we gotta see that trajectory. We can't just be status quo, we gotta move the needle north.
Well, we tried to do that, and we were thinking that direction at one point, and that's when we came up with the 2.5 million, and that did not go. So,
So we got nothing.
yeah.
So
We have to find that fine line where everybody is on board, or
So I'm
nobody's
gonna
on
help y'all
board.
really quickly and tell you that you should not be responding to public comments because you are going to get in a bit of trouble. So
Okay.
when you're doing public comments, you can hear them and you can say, I'm gonna take that under advisement and we're gonna discuss it at our next meeting.
See, we don't do public comments.
So I was trying to sit here and just bite my tongue, but I really don't. The open meeting law complaint for legal fees is another thing I don't wanna pay.
Yeah.
So y'all keep talking and y'all nod and say we're gonna take it under advisement.
Okay.
Okay.
No more talking on our end.
I just have one question, and I don't know if this is maybe something you could. What is the difference between level funded and level services?
Why don't you let her answer that?
Okay, Linda.
I'm not sure, you sure I can?
You can. You're not part of their body. She can.
I'll go see it out there. Okay, level funded is if we had a $20 million budget this year, we're gonna have a $20 million budget. That's level funded, exactly 20 million. You know that if you move that, your $20 million budget the second year is not going to cover as much as your $20 million budget the year before, because you gave raises, contracts went up, the insurance went up and all that. So in order to achieve the same $20 million budget in the second year,
It'd have to be more.
it might cost $21 million.
Okay.
So that would be level
Yeah, I know.
services. And then up from there, I guess.
Cost of doing business.
Yeah.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Ginny Phil, 127 West Street. I just wondered about the override, that's 500,000 override that we're proposing. Is that going to be just to get us for 1 year?
Basically.
Oh, no, the override, operational overrides, stay. So we have so much money we can raise each year in taxes.
Okay.
And if we do an override for an extra 500,000, that becomes your new base. And so the next year we can raise 2.5% over that.
But does that
So
make you
it-
whole, or does that fill the gap? Like, does it allow you to
Right.
grow, as y'all were referencing? Also, I'm not part of your board either. I'm not part of your board either. So,
Slip me a
sorry.
note if you
So
want.
that's it. What if you're stabilizing for a year, or you're looking beyond that? That's what the 500,000 is. And I'll say, for everybody, South Hadley did something kind of big, and I mean, that's really interesting. If y'all have not read the newspaper article about that, I think they're doing 9, 11, and 12 million options, because they're hoping not to have these conversations year after year after year. So
Although-
I'm not saying we need a 9, 12, or 11 million dollar.
Although
I'm not saying that.
That would be great.
Yeah,
But,
imagine the schools.
And just what would the time frame on this be looking like? Are
The-
we trying to get this in May?
Timeline's gone on May. You can't get it for May, but we are working on a timeline to try to get it as soon as possible.
For starting July, for
For-
the
for
27
seven-
budget beginning July
yeah.
1.
So it wouldn't go to town meeting?
It would go to town
It
meeting
would.
first, because it also involves, you have to spend the money. So let's say we vote the budget in with no override. And then the next article is, here's the supplementary budget, we want to put another 500 into the schools, we want this into the fire, we want and if the town votes that budget, subject to an override. So the override would then cover that additional amount of the budget, so for going into 27, it would be those combinations of budget.
And we
then-
do 2 votes, right?
Well, you do your first vote at town meeting, and then you would do your
Yeah.
second vote at the ballot box. And please don't quote me on this, but I believe it's 35 days is what you need after. So, don't quote me on it.
After the town meeting?
Yeah,
35
yeah,
days.
don't take that, don't tell everybody I said it like that, but I'm pretty positive. And we're gonna touch base on all of that tomorrow night as well at the buy board meeting.
Have we looked into the extension that we've had during all these extended meetings and the override?
You know, it's like.
We might wanna look at that into the budget and say, all right, well, we've extended the override by X amount of days and months, maybe we need to add a little bit more in there to pad that money that because if we're gonna miss the May deadline, and then we're going into July, well, we've missed almost 7 months. So we should probably think about, well, what are we gonna do with those 7 months financially? Or can we add a little bit more to
I
that
get, yeah.
$500+ override that you're talking about?
Just nod.
That's not the response.
Yep.
Just not.
Everybody nod.
I don't want to speak for the select board. There comes a point where I'm overstepping, so I do not want to do that.
Bill Lennon, 17 High Meadow Road. And just to begin with, I want to say that I support an override. And the question is how much. That's the question that you're all wrestling with. But I want to say that I support an override. I guess the second thing to say is, as I think you probably recognize, my wife and I have attended many of these meetings, and we try to attend every meeting with the department head. And as I said at the last buy board meeting, those meetings were gut-wrenching. As everybody came in and explained what they were trying to do, now they're trying to scrape things together and steal from here and borrow from there and just pull everything together. And by the time we finished those meetings, it was like exhausted, but also felt sad for these people that are just getting hammered on this budgetary stuff. I attended the last buy board meeting, and I thought about the predicament you all would have. I was thinking during the meeting you'd have a particular problem because according to open meeting law, you can't come together and discuss your ideas about what to say at your finance committee meeting here tonight. I thought, well, I thought about that and I thought, well, probably what's gonna happen is each of you would come in and kind of spitball what you thought was necessary based on those department meetings. I was always kind of doing these games of what if, right? I think many of you were doing that, you know, okay, we need 50,000 for that, you know. I kind of thought that each of you would come in, since you can't discuss it, and time is so short, I thought you'd come in and spitball. And Amy, you began by kind of spitballing that, and I appreciated that. And, but I would just urge that as you approach the buy-board meeting, that each of you take the responsibility as a finance committee member, having been through all those department head meetings and having the wealth of information that's provided, even though they're often moving targets, I understand that you come to the buy-board meeting with a perspective on override, no override, and if override, how much, you know, is warranted. I'm fully aware that many people felt the override in the fall was too much. But as I've said before at these meetings, I'm really hopeful that the finance committee and the select board can come to a meeting of the minds and come before the town with a proposal for an override that you support. I'm not saying it has to be unanimous support, I'm hoping there'll be support there from the two committees speaking to the town as a whole. So, thank you.
I think I kind of want to address what you were saying in context of that. I think that what was attempted by the select board in the fall is to have the override and say, and we're not going to bother you again for a while. This is going to be it. This is the one that's going to take us the next few years. I think, too, then, seeing what was happening with the healthcare, and if it went up like that again, they couldn't even promise that was going to be enough. So there's been a little shift in how some people think that, oh, like, go ahead, let's say there are people who say, oh, we would support a $500,000 override or a $750,000, but we may be coming back to you next year. So if we had that kind of a building over time, as opposed to let's try and come with that answer, that amount that will take care of us for the next few years, I don't think that the interest in not bothering people, although it's a big effort to go through and it's very draining to be going through the whole override process. Maybe if we get in the habit of it, we go, oh, well, let's try it. Let's try it again. She says as she's about to retire. But there's just been a change. Like, why go for that and make this big plan and this large override just to be told you asked too much? We can't do that. Okay, now there's going to be a little bit of change in strategy. So yeah, it is going to be definitely pulled back from the earlier ask, but there may be another one next year.
Sorry. Hi, Kristen Thayer. I live on Hockenham Road. And maybe this is a naive question or comment, but I guess I'm kind of curious of, do we have to come to this unanimous decision of $500,000, or can there be a presentation of levels, similar, maybe not $12 million like South Hadley?
I would like it.
That would be great. I also support an override. I have one kid in Hadley Elementary right now, another one coming up in a few months. We've had an amazing experience with the schools. We love this town. My husband is a Hadley through and through.
Oh yeah, that last name.
Yeah.
You know your name.
I know. A lot of people do. But we supported the override when it was high, knowing that, okay, like, this is what is going to help our community grow and our community thrive. And I think at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. And I know for so many people, there can be sticker shock when you see an amount of money that you were not prepared to spend. And I think, nobody wants to spend more money, right? Like, ever. But at the end of the day, you're looking at an investment into the future of the town. And so we talk about school or fire or police, right? And these are all small parts of what make this community amazing. And so I guess just at the end of the day, now I'm rambling, but I wonder if there is levels that can be presented so that people can really see the impact of their money. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what will be discussed at my board, is whether they would be doing a lump sum or whether they would say this or this or this, and build it, they can build, or there's menus, there's different ways to do it. We are new to operational overrides in Hadley, as in like really brand new. So, yeah, we're trying to all figure out what will work best.
I guess, can I ask, oh, I'm sorry.
This isn't my meeting, I just didn't
No,
want you to get,
I just didn't know if I
want
could
you to
ask
get in
a
trouble with
question.
it.
I didn't wanna know if I could
That's
ask a
y'all's
question
meeting.
about, the preschool. Okay, thank you.
You can submit it to Dr. McKenzie.
I will do that,
Yeah.
thank you.
They pay too, by the way, it's not fully, the preschool families
They
pay.
pay a tuition.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they had from the beginning. By the way, I was on the initial
Friends
committee of
Bethany.
parents who got the first preschool grant, started in the basement of, look at that, Goodwin Memorial.
Rock star, get claps and everything.
Was that with Mrs. Murray? With Mrs. Murray?
It was a while.
I agree, the preschool, we moved here 5 years ago, and our kids have both gone through the preschool at Hadley Elementary, and we paid for it, and I think it is some of the best money I've ever spent in town.
Yeah.
Just to
Oh,
interrupt you,
yeah.
just to say your
Oh,
name.
John Spear, 2 Colony Drive, Hadley, so, sorry about that. But I will tell you, the preschool was just incredible for our kids, and the school districts in Hadley they're incredible. They're
Yeah.
full of amazing people, the teaching staff's incredible. Like Lindsay said, I have to agree with her 100% there, and we gotta take care of the schools. That's the big reason I'm here tonight.
I'm so sorry, but I just wanted to jump in that the tuition is extremely low, especially
Yeah.
compared to daycare costs. So it would certainly, again, right, not cover the cost of everything else. So I just wanna make that clear. It's also a huge draw. Their flexibility and that cost is why a lot of people come to Hadley. So again, they made that connection early, and the Friends at Hadley Preschool Group does a great job raising money every year to support the school in other ways that the town cannot meet.
Last comment?
Yeah. Nancy Banman, 17 High Meadow Road. I really want to say that I appreciate all of your dedication to really looking at these numbers. I mean, so Bill was incorrect, my husband. We actually did go to every single meeting except one, and we saw that on Zoom. Thank you very much. Yes, it tore my heart apart to see very dedicated employees in this town really have to beg for what they thought that they could run their departments with. It made me so sad. And the other thing I thought about was a firefighter alone at 3 a.m. is alone in the station, gets a call, and now is having to race to a location and then has to call somebody to get help. I mean, it is scary. If you've ever been in a fire, those firefighters are risking everything to go in. And the idea that we are accepting that we'll have one on and then get that person to call others. There's a lag time, there's safety. I really worry about all the chemicals, et cetera, that the firefighters deal with. So to me, I believe that there was a number that he mentioned that was 2, and you said reinstate 2, but I think we really need 3 if we're following the police department paradigm, which is that you always account for 1 being out, so that you don't have overtime. And overtime is just a morale killer. Over time, it's gonna really hurt the department in a lot of different ways, and it's gonna cost more. The other thing I think is that $50 a quarter is right now 1 fill-up at the gas tank. for my car, small SUV. So are we willing, to your point, for people to spend more to get not just level funding, but to really grow our town? Because I think level funding, to your point, is not keeping up with what's going on out there. There are so many economic forces now where we really can't pay people. I keep hearing we're not paying people enough. And people are scraping like at town hall to try and do the jobs and be flexible. But, you know, there's only so much cross-training that people can do. I did not hear an administrative assistant job that was not important, like not really important to the running of that department. They're doing grants, you know, at the police department. And Captain Spanknagel talked about the
Chief.
Chief talked about the importance of his administrative assistant. And that's sort of not giving that person enough credit. So I think we gotta up our game here. And I would like to see a different approach to the amounts that we would look at. Cause I think 500,000, while palatable, is not enough in this day and age. And I think there are people who are more willing to look at a higher amount. Because we also have to look at our future, and to your point, we need a future plan, not just what do we do to put our holes, you know, our fingers in the dike to stop the bleeding. So, I wanna say that, it's really the benefit to the town, and because I'm not for the cafeteria approach, because I think they're just, all the departments in town really rely on each other. And I think we wanna support every single department. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so if, right before, Alex?
I just want to say one quick thing. Most, if not all, the departments that were mentioned today, we've supported in some way. I just ask that we put a little extra emphasis on our department when we talk about these overrides and however we do it, because we really need it. I show members every year we're dipping every year, and we absolutely need support. And if the team in the town was not in a financial constraint, we'd be in a financial constraint. So we really need the support sooner than later, and at least discuss it publicly.
Okay.
Thank you.
I agree. We all do.
Thank you.
I would like to, set our next meeting, for finance. So if you could look at your calendars.
Not
Our other finance committee, so Tuesday,
I can't do the 14th.
Wednesday, if you can, I'm out of town.
So the 15th will be the next select board meeting where we're gonna close the warrant.
Oh.
15th.
Is the next select board or by board?
Well, I can make it a buy board if y'all are ready for a buy board.
So, the April 15th,
It's
The
a select board meeting. I can make any meeting a buy board,
okay, how about,
but you can't do it, Paul?
well, plus we're just doing it as finance, we don't need to, we've already discussed the buy board stuff. So
Okay.
now we're just doing, tomorrow will be the big discussion, but then we need to have our recommendations for the whole warrant and everything, right?
You have time for the warrant. You do not have to have that done by the 15th. I need that by like April 23rd, 24th.
Oh.
You don't, I told you at the buy board
That's right.
meeting,
So-
you don't
So
have
what
to
do
do
we
that.
have, we don't have to rush, they're gonna close the warrant, but that doesn't mean anything to us with
Not
voting.
necessarily, you just have to meet at some point to make your recommendations. I would like it before we do the public forum, so that the people have your
So,
recommendations.
yeah,
but-
so there's no rush, the 21st?
But,
Peter?
I mean, the 21st, the only thing I'm asking is y'all wanna have your budget discussions? I mean, if you wait till the 21st to have your next meeting with your budget recommendations, I mean, that's really pushing for your budget recommendations, to have you come back to the select board and have a conversation with them. You're not leaving a lot of time. That time's just gonna disappear really quickly.
Monday the 13th.
Somebody can't do the
We
13th.
can't, we got our other finance
Well,
committee
we-
we're
we-
on.
Yeah. So,
But don't we have one on the 16th?
No,
Okay, I can erase that.
Oh, you could. I mean, could y'all do the 16th?
I don't know why I have it on the 16th,
This,
but that
there's
might
a
have been.
state meeting that day, that
no,
state
we
meeting.
can't, that's, we're here at the,
So I can erase that.
Mass Municipal Finance.
What about
is coming
Tuesday,
here.
the
The
14th?
municipal one,
16th.
oh.
I can't do, I might make my last banner meeting the 14th before we go to,
What time, I mean, we could do it later on the Monday, the
20th, is that what you're saying,
the
Peter?
13th.
Either, I mean,
The 13th is just an hour meeting, so 5:30 to 6:30, we could just make it 6:30.
It's
meeting.
just us.
Yeah. It's the 13th,
I can do Monday, 13th, 6:30 instead of 6.
yeah.
And then do we wanna do a buy board with the select board on the 15th, or you can't make it on the 15th?
Neither can you.
You could just set it up and cancel.
I can always post, yeah, and y'all not
Just-
come.
If you just pencil it in, you can decide whether you.
What, the
if you-
13th?
That, for the
For
15th,
the 15th.
Oh, the 15th?
if you just
I couldn't.
request a buy
What's
board.
the time?
Buy boards, I mean, select board meets at 6, we could do a buy board at 7. So
do it
one of
earlier?
my members has a hard time getting to a meeting
For a long time.
Yeah.
really before. I mean,
Yeah.
we could try to do a 5 or a 5:30, but that really pushes a lot of people coming from work, but we could try that.
I wouldn't even want to do that.
Yeah, okay. So,
I
I mean,
mean-
we're gonna have the buy board meeting
Tomorrow night.
tomorrow.
Yep.
And then let's put in for I'll put in for the 13th Finance Committee,
6 o'clock?
6:30.
6:30.
Just this one, usually we're always 6 o'clock, but this one's gonna have to be different. It'll be 6:30.
the 13th,
Okay,
right, 13th, 6:30.
Yep.
6:30.
And so then y'all don't want to do a buy board on the 15th
Well, the 15th, we already purchased tickets.
They
to,
can't go.
We
They can't go to the,
We commit every third Wednesday to the American Legion, give them money, and we purchase dinner tickets.
oh, okay.
eat
Um,
fast.
So,
6:30.
That's why I was telling them before, always put us on the first Wednesday, not the
right,
third Wednesday.
it's just with the budget season, I was just trying to move it quickly so that y'all had time for good conversations with the select board. So, I guess we could tomorrow night ask the select board to take on an extra meeting, I guess, and,
Well,
Because
The
they're already
22nd,
meeting.
we're
for us.
already meeting jointly tomorrow.
right, but I'm imagining after you do your budget, that you would wanna come back to the select board with your recommendations. So
Okay.
that's why I was just,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get that moving forward because I don't know what kind of discussions y'all wanna have. And I wanna make sure we're leaving lots of time for discussion.
Yeah.
For the two boards to have together. So that's what I'm saying, if you can't do the 15th, y'all have the commitment at the American Legion, okay? So I'm just trying to say, like, I guess we can check with the select board about getting another meeting on the books.
Yeah, we can look at that.
Okay,
So
tomorrow
we'll just
night.
keep that open for right now, I guess.
Okay.
And you said that I have until the date, the last date we have.
I'll tell you again tomorrow.
Tell me again tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Don't worry,
you'll
I'll
let
be
us
calling
know-
and saying, where are my recommendations?
Okay,
You'll let us know, Jen, about an additional meeting with the select
Well,
board?
y'all can decide that tomorrow night with the select board. I'm,
And town meeting
I post,
is-
I post their meetings, but I don't set their
What day is
times.
the town meeting? It's the
May 7th, always May 7th, or always the first Thursday in May.
yeah.
At 7.
7 PM.
And we have to have everything done before,
Town
the
meeting.
day before?
No, so we do a public forum about the week before. I need time to print stuff. So and that's the other thing. We're pushing, if y'all are meeting that week of the 21st, I'm gonna wanna start printing that next week. So we have to be mindful of what the timing is on this. That's why I'm pressing so hard for y'all to have more meetings quicker.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not being friendly
That's
with
okay,
it.
so our,
I'm
basically
like, come
our
on, let's
drop
go,
dead
guys.
to give you time to print is the 24th,
Yeah.
that last Friday.
Right.
before.
Well, no, we'll do this tomorrow night. We'll firm this up tomorrow night. I want to look at my calendar with my print dates and everything on it, which I did not bring with me tonight.
Alright.
let's see, I have to, well, we are gonna be on the 13th, so I'll have to post. I just wanna make sure, 'cause I'm
Yes.
posting and I need to make sure I do it in time. Okay,
Alright, so tomorrow night by board and then 13th,
13th.
our next discuss.
So, do we have a motion?
Have a motion to close the meeting?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Peter, second by Pam, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job.